Hello, I'm going to show you my saw guide I made 8 years ago. Actually on my second saw that I'm using this with. When Festool first came out and hit the area, it didn't hit my area till about 9 years ago, 10 years ago. About 9 years ago, I looked at whether I wanted to invest in it. It was $1,200 to get started, and the saw was okay, the functionality of it and everything looked good, but it looked primarily like a one-shot functionality to it. Put the track down, you break down sheets, and you go on with your work. You think you're going to eliminate a table saw, and yet in the back of my mind I knew I would always have a table saw, and that I would always want to use a table saw. I'm too old to change, and I still see things about the Festool that I can't do, and I can do them on my table saw, like little tiny pieces. So at the end of the day, I thought I just need a good guide to break down my sheets like I've been doing. And I showed you in one of my 2-minute videos, I showed you my saw guide that's in 2 4-foot pieces, and I link it together, and it's aluminum rail. And I've used that for 25, 30 years. Guys were using that 35 years ago. They just put a straight piece of door casing on a piece of 1/4-inch plywood and ripped it off, and there was their guide, and it was fantastic and worked great. You clamp it down, you got no tear out. It was awesome, and it's fast. And that's what guys have been doing for a long time, and I thought, well, I'll do that, and I've been doing that, and I still do that. I still use that, but I probably use this more. What this is a piece of 1/2-inch MDF as a sub base to my saw. If you look at the saw, the guard works as it always would, so you have the complete safety that you always had, except you just added a sub base to your saw. And the edge of that base lines up with this. Actually, it lines up with the inner face of the saw blade. This edge here lines up with this edge. And it's just screwed down. I have some screws from the top through my saw base, wood screws. I drilled several holes in several places and screwed my saw base on it. Now, I could give you a long description about how to get this square with your saw and everything, but the bottom line is you've got to get this edge, this little nicely squared rectangular piece with a cutout, you've got to get that so that that edge here lines up nice with this blade. That's all that matters. This edge is in line with the face of the blade. And of course, this leading edge would be square to this edge. That's all that matters. The rest of it doesn't matter that much. Now, that leading edge of that plywood, that MDF I should say, butts to a piece of T-track made by Incra company. Incra hit our area about 10 or 12 years ago, and everybody was using T-track and building router tables with it, and it's a wonderful product. Well, they make a product called T-track Plus, and I used a piece of Incra T-track Plus, which has like a back-to-back slot. So you have a slot on the bottom, and that's what my guide slides in, with T-nuts. Then on top you have a slot, and I have just flat straps of aluminum, you could use steel, screwed to my base, T-nuts into my T-track, the top T-track, and wing nuts, and they're locked down, and they just don't move. And the idea is the edge of that MDF is zeroed out on the zero, because Incra T-track Plus comes with a scale already inserted. Well, I think you insert it when you buy it, but you insert the scale, and it's a friction fit, and it doesn't move. It's real nice. So once you line the zero up, it could be adjusted, but it's stubborn. It doesn't want to move. So you get this lined up with the zero, and the zero lined up with this. Fasten these down tight. You're good to go. And if you ever need to adjust it, you've got these to loosen and slide the saw hair and then retighten those down. Then when you saw, you just use the guide and set it wherever you want. And I have T-nuts, or T-bolts, I should say, T-bolts in the bottom track of the extrusion. They slide. I have knurled quarter 20 knurled nuts. I actually used washers and a split washer, so you only have to give the knurled nuts about a quarter of a turn and this baby will not move. I have a straight edge here on 1/2" birch plywood. I have 90 degrees to that, a little guide that runs me against the T-track and holds this square. Then I screwed down a little piece of acrylic. I had a bunch of scraps of little acrylic plexiglass, and that tells me on the scale what I am from 0, which should be what I am from the inside of my blade, and it's pretty accurate. Very seldom do I have to fiddle with this. And I can pretty much set up on any number all the way out to 30 inches. I think I can get 28 inches, because T-Track Plus is probably sold in various lengths, but this length is a 32-inch length. You really don't need that, because the most you'd really ever realistically want to rip is 24. I can go out to, I think, 29 inches and still clamp down. So it's phenomenal, a phenomenal capacity. And like I say, most of the time you'd never go over 24. And half the time I'm never going over 16 or 12 for a lot of my rips. And this is in fact faster than my other saw guide that I clamp to the surface of the wood. Now you can get tear out with this, and there's probably a way to reduce that or eliminate that by adding another tab in here or letting this come into the blade a little bit. But I wanted this guide, actually this guard, to work as it was designed by the manufacturer, so you have all your safety in place. And I haven't done anything to affect the safety of the saw. But you can see the knurled nuts here, quarter 20 T-bolts. You could use a hex cap screw, quarter 20 hex head cap screw. You can use a quarter 20 bolt. A lot of things you can use in T-Track because it fits several different styles of screws, and they sell screws as well. It's important to get this so that it's 90, and so I have that, and that's what this rail here does. Establishes me 90. You can tighten it down, put it right where you want it, and establishes a good 90 here. And it's a good system. I've broken down many, just stacks and stacks of plywood with this. I'll wear out another saw before I wear out this guide. And I actually think my guide is better than the store-bought ones. And I sure have gotten a lot of use out of this. Thanks for watching.